Well, happy Saturday, everyone. It's Heather here. And however you are tuning in, whether it's on the No Dusty Bibles podcast or on my YouTube channel, I am so glad that you're joining me today. And today I'm thinking about one specific person. I'm thinking of a girl who grew up in the church, but was afraid to return to it because she thought she no longer belonged. I'm thinking of a girl who had let bitterness take root underneath a perfectly performed smile. I am thinking of a girl who could not even recognize the grace that surrounded her because she was just too tired of life in a fallen world. I'm thinking these things because I was that girl, and maybe you are too. So, I have a story that I want to share with you today because I'm also thinking about the gracious love of a father who tenderly and persistently called me home. So, on one Easter Sunday morning over a decade ago, Thomas, and I sat in church together, and the pastor was teaching from John 20 about the moment that Jesus appeared to Mary after his resurrection. So let me read it to you now. I'm going to read John 20:11 through 18. Now Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. And they asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. And Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." And Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I have seen the Lord." And she told them that he had said these things to her. Now, what you don't know about that Sunday morning was that I had not been to a formal church service in about 3 years, nor had I opened the pages of my Bible at all in that time. Because during that season, my father's car hit a tree, and we had about 48 hours with him before our family decided to turn his life support off. And I struggled deeply in my grief during that time. I was so blinded by my grief that I couldn't see God's movement or feel his love for me. I lashed out at him in anger over my circumstances, and I turned away from him and my faith in Jesus until that Sunday morning. As the pastor taught us from John 20, I felt a lot like Mary Magdalene. She had traveled with Jesus for 3 years, and yet when he appeared to her in the garden after his resurrection, she was so blinded by her grief that she didn't recognize him. She thought he was the gardener. And I'll never forget the moment in that Sunday service where Thomas, who was around 6 years old at the time, he shoved his open Bible in my face and he exclaimed, "See, Mommy, see?" She didn't even know that it was Jesus, but it was Jesus. And like Mary, I had been so blinded by my own grief that I wasn't able to recognize Jesus anywhere, although he was walking right beside me all the time. Grief, loss, sadness, difficult circumstances, betrayal, storms of life can skew our perspective. And how many times over the past few years had I said, just like Mary, "They have taken my Lord away, and I don't know where they've put him. I don't know where they've put him. Just tell me where he is, and I'll get him. Where did he go? Why can't I hear him? Why can't I feel his presence?" And I let my sadness consume me, and this root of bitterness planted itself in my heart. I refused to see Jesus. And I couldn't see past my own grief to where Jesus was right in front of me. But God. You see, Jesus pursued me until I was back into a close and personal relationship with him. And every Easter, I remember this story. I remember that Sunday morning over a decade ago. And I thank God for his unending love for me. I thank God that he pursued my heart. I thank God that he didn't give up on me. This past Wednesday night, we sat in our home church now. We were thinking about just the good news of the gospel, preparing our hearts for the celebration of Easter. We were thinking about Jesus' sacrificial love for us, that he might go to the cross to rescue me from my sinful nature. We were thinking about the goodness of God and the fact that he never gives up on us. And we recited these words together as a church family: God's mercy endures forever. And just like Jesus whispering Mary's name to her in John 20, he whispered my name on that Sunday morning over a decade ago. And I am so thankful that God called me back home to him. So tomorrow we celebrate Easter, a day of renewal, hope, and profound joy in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And I'm sharing this story with you because if by chance you are like me, if it's been a while since you walked through the doors of a church, since you bowed your head in worship, since you opened the pages of a Bible, if your Bible is a little bit dusty, may this be a reminder to you that you can always come home. You can go back. You can walk through the doors of a church tomorrow morning. Easter is the perfect time to rediscover your faith, to be embraced by a community of people that care, and to renew your spirit in the grace that Easter represents. No matter how long it's been, or how far you've wandered, or even if you've never stepped foot in a church before, the message of Easter assures us that renewal is possible, forgiveness is waiting, and God's love is endless for you, my friend. So this Easter, let's step into the light of his love together. I'll see you at church. If you're looking to dig deeper, I'd love to serve as your tour guide through the Bible in one of my in-depth Bible studies. Ready? Finding the courage to face the unknown. Determined? Living like Jesus in every moment. Or renewed? Finding hope when you don't like your story. You can learn more at therescuedletters.com/books.